welcome to New Meta. This is episode 8. We're 8 deep, and we've got a great episode lined up for you today. It's a nostalgia edition. We're going to be looking into Dota's time capsule and journeying back along the timeline into Dota's great past. Joining me in this final episode before Marco's return, long awaited or not awaited, I'm not so sure. But we're joined by Adam. Hello, Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well for me. How are you?
Pretty good. Ready to test out another potential Marco replacement. We'll see. We'll see if his older brother is any more professional at podcasting.
Which is a great intro for the final piece of the 5 stack, the lesser seen guest Joe. How are you, Joe?
Hello, good sirs. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm doing very well.
Great. Are you looking forward to a journey back in time?
I mean, since Marco overtook me at Dota Ability some probably 10 years ago, I'm hoping I can outdo him on the podcast at least.
Yeah, specialist subject perhaps.
No, we're talking about the golden era. That's when you were better because you played first,
sir.
right? So there was a time period where older bro was the teacher.
There was a time.
Which is a good prompt for perhaps some form of introduction, the history that you have with Dota and when you got into the game and all that good stuff.
All right, so I started playing this game back in 2007. I'm sure there's a few super Dota veteran snobs. I've met a couple in real life who are kind of like, they were back in the even before that, and they like turn their nose up at me. I'm not trying to show off. I've just been playing the game that long. But my golden era was back in Dota 1 and then the early days of Dota 2. I've kind of become a bit of a spectator the past probably 5 years. So I'm your kind of armchair Dota 2 tag along, jump in a few party games kind of guy. But I still follow the game and the pro scene because it's had such a big part of my life.
Awesome. Fun story as well. You mentioned the beginning of Dota 2, which, I mean, you've already been playing Dota by a ton by then, but that's actually the release of Dota 2 and the beta keys, the scramble for beta keys. That was when I created my first Reddit account. I knew about Reddit a little bit as a site, but I never had any means to create an account, and suddenly you and Marco were like, you gotta create an account so you can upvote my guilt trip about why I need a beta key, and that's how my account was born. So way back when
we bullied you to make an account to increase our beta key chances.
Yeah, but that one upvote was critical. I remember as well at the time, back then there used to be a lot of anti-account making, like memery, and I was like young as well, so I was just like, I don't want to make an account, and then you guys were like, no, make an account so you can give me an upvote on our Dota 2. I need a beta key now. Okay.
Well, that's one of my favorite Dota 2 stories with Joe is when he finally got the beta key. If you want to tell that one, Joe, and maybe apologize to your friend.
Right, I'm not 100% sure how this went down. I mean, I remember getting the key, and this is my the best thing about my Dota profile because my stats aren't good, but I've got the first game back in what would it be, October 2011 maybe? Could that be possible?
Yeah, somewhere around there I think.
So that's pretty big. But I got the key, and maybe it came I got 3 keys, or you get to invite 2 people or something. And so yeah, that's right. Oh, it was the guest of the podcast, right? Nick from episode 7.
Yep.
Yeah, we'd been pooling our resources together, doing everything we can to get our hands on a key. We were good friends at uni, perhaps best friends at uni. And then I finally got the key, and I was like, I insta-gibbed one to my brother. I obviously took one. And then, the third key I didn't give to Nick. So, sorry, Nick.
He had the last laugh, though, because obviously being a guest before you on the podcast now, all Dota key stuff, that's secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. He's trumped me in many ways since then.
So you got the you guys were having like a LAN party or something, and that's when you got the keys, and your friend gifted you Terraria on Steam for you guys to play, and that's when you got the key, and you're like, well, not playing Terraria ever. Never installed. Just this gifted game.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was awful. You're right. So we were actually.
I don't even know which friend did that, but shouts out to whoever it was at Cambridge.
Shout out to Johnny Crumbs. This was like way before I've even met you, right, Adam? And so yeah, that's right. We were in a LAN. We just got this Dota key, and I did the double bitch move. First, I don't give one of the keys to Nick, who I'm at this LAN with. Second, we're at a LAN, and I got the key during the LAN, and I just installed Dota there and then, and didn't play, just ignored everyone and just played my Dota 2 beta key by myself, having gifted none of the people present the two keys. No regrets. I went tiny mid in my first game and just ruffle stomped with my Dota 1 skills. So that was good times.
Nice. When were the keys? At what period are we talking here? How long was Dota in beta key mode? Because I have no idea.
So like up until TI, there was no public beta keys, if I remember right. So there was just invited, like it was like alpha, like closed invite, all the way up to TI 1. And then I think soon after TI, Adam can probably fill the dates in with his knowledge bank, but I think that would be summer 2011. So I think from like July, August onwards was the start of like kind of private beta keys, or like not open beta, and it went on for like, I don't know, a year, 2 years. I don't know.
It went on for a while. I don't know. That's before my time. Even I was late 2012, like Christmas 2012. So
was it open beta then?
Yeah, I think it was. It was open.
Right, but like for something like half a year to a year, it was like this closed beta, but they were giving out more and more keys as time went on. So it eventually got to the point where if you wanted to get a key, you could find one.
Right. And what was the match like? What were matches like then? Was it just completely random? Was there some sort of skill thing or not?
Oh boy, the streets of early Dota 2. That was a good time to be alive. So I think they had the initial MMR system in place from like pretty much from day one, but the number wasn't visible, but it was separated into, normal, high, and very high. Those skill brackets did exist. But there were just so few players within the region that you'd get like huge mismatches within the games. So it was kind of like playing wild ranging skill party games without the cap of like whatever it is now that you have to be 2K MMR or whatever. Right. So yeah, you'd get very kind of wonky games, but there was a balancing system in place from the start.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's worth mentioning at this point as well. I don't know if I've ever said, but I didn't start playing Dota until March. I think my first game is March 2017. So I'm like a new kid on the block, basically. I'm a baby. Yeah, I'm like a Dota baby.
Coming on for your 2-year anniversary, though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, coming up.
A Dota toddler. A Dota toddler can just now walk.
Yeah. I will say a couple points of housekeeping. Well, like bungalow keeping for a podcast of this size, but regardless, keep your emails coming because we desperately want to hear. If you're out there and you're like, I'm not the kind of person that emails a podcast as will listen from time to time, then you need to buck your ideas up. Ask a question and we'll be sure to discuss it on the podcast, or just say hi. Honestly, it'd be awesome to hear from any of you. And
we'll discuss that on the podcast too. If they just say hi, we'll discuss it.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, yeah. We're so primitive at this point. If you just give any recognition that you're a person that exists, that knows about the pod, then we won't believe our luck. Also, bit of housekeeping. A certain member of the podcast binged Ancient 6 the other day. That's a pod.
You?
That was me. That was me.
Wait.
Big congrats.
Yeah. Yes. It is worth mentioning, though, I'm sure Adam's dying to point out that despite being 500 MMR higher than me,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Only one badge higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Ancient 6, but I'm not actually Ancient 6. I'm probably like Ancient 4 or I don't even know. I'm not sure, but
I don't know what's happening with the party games with
makes no
affecting solo
sense. Yeah.
MMR. It's very weird right now.
There's some weird bug with party MMR and party games affecting your solo that just shouldn't be the case, because my party MMR is 2.3k or something abysmal. My solo is 4.5, so it shouldn't have any effect whatsoever, and yet it seems to. When I calibrated my party, I binked a badge immediately and was like 80% to the next badge out of nowhere. So, who knows, whatever. Anyway, a bink's a bink, and to the public, all they see is the number of stars in my profile, so that's what goes down in the history.
It can't go down, so it doesn't matter, got Ancient 6.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Segue into the first point to talk about. Mars, very soon, we hope. We talked a little bit about Mars last episode. Shout out to guest Nick, who gave us the interesting knowledge bombs of the spell names that are known. So we won't go into Mars, but it brings us into our first topic, which is hero releases. And so, as someone who's only seen 3 hero releases, that being Grimstroke, Dark Willow, and Pangolier, I will pose the question of what hero releases stand out to you in either Dota 1, Dota 2, and when you think of a fun hero release, what are you thinking?
You're post Monkey King and Arc Warden?
Yeah. Post Monkey King was in the game when I started, yeah.
Oh my god.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
This guy.
That's wild. Time flies.
Wait, Monkey King's not a new hero?
Yeah. He's like old now. If I'm thinking back to my old days, Source 1, Dota 2, loading in with that beautiful, beautiful UI. They'd have the blog post on the left side. I'm trying to think, because they'd always have the picture of the hero that was newest. Who was the first hero that was added when I started? It might have been Medusa. I think I started right after Centaur might have been added, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it was crazy. You would have that was kind of a fun time. It's like you kind of knew what the heroes were. I mean, I started in Dota 2, so I was like so many heroes to learn, but you actually it was like, oh, they're going to add another hero from Dota 1. You can at least look up what it did and see if they're going to make any differences, any changes. But like adding Winter Wyvern and Legion Commander, Slark got added, like kind of changes the game significantly. Imagine a Dota without Slark.
When I think of adding heroes, it's really interesting to think how much more work went into Dota in those first few years. I mean, it's obvious because that's what happens with any game. But these days, when Valve adds like 1 hero a year, like 2 heroes a year, but back when it was coming out, they must have been chucking out heroes all the time to get up to 110 or whatever, from considering how many started in TI, the first one. There must have been quite rapid releases. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's like 30 heroes or something.
Yeah, 30 or 40 maybe. It's kind of a random list when you look at it. I know I've looked at it before, and it's like, really? That was a launch hero? Like Beastmaster was one of the first? Kind of weird. It's like, I figured that one would be a little bit harder to code or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to when you look at that list of like why these 30, 40 heroes. It's quite interesting.
Were there any heroes from Dota 1 that weren't upon release that you were waiting for a lot, Joe?
That's a good question. I don't remember that strongly. I think because, like you said, they were churning out the hero imports quite consistently. That it was always like new and exciting. So I don't have one standing out. But I remember back when I'd started playing back in Dota 1, I remember the patch where this is probably the first hero added patch that I clearly remember. So it stands out to me. But AA and Slack came in together in one patch. So
in Dota 1.
This isn't Dota 1, so these heroes didn't exist. Right. No one knew anything about them. Yeah. There was no like real proper patch notes. Like you had to be like pretty nerdy to be deep on the forums to actually read skills or anything like that.
Right.
So you'd just be like playing a pub and it's like, oh, there's these new heroes. And I feel like, I don't know if people were just really bad and they couldn't even click on, but it was like there was no loadout screen, right? So you couldn't hover on skills. You had to go in the game and get the hero to like see what happens. And I remember just playing AA And it used to get run mid, and you just cold feet someone, and they're like, "What's this DPS spell that inevitably leads to like a 3-second stun?" Because no one understood it.
Yeah.
Can't figure out why they're freezing.
Yeah. And it had like the same, but like maybe blue colored animation as like Bloodseeker's ulti. And people had like maybe you learned to not run with that. So they were trying that, or people just couldn't figure it out. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you could even tell anything that was going on. When I watched the Dota 1 clip, I'm like, I can't understand any of it. I don't know what any of the hero models are. The map kind of looks Dota-esque, but the only recognizable hero is Tiny to me, maybe Pudge.
There's some I recognise. It's sometimes Shadow Fiend's reasonable recognition. But the funny thing about Dota 1 videos is you're not only battling against Dota 1 graphics, you're also battling against like 2009 video capture software as well.
It's so it's like pegged.
Yeah, it's like a double whammy of like, I have no idea what's happening here. And every noise seems to be the same. It's like the like weird. I don't know if it's like a creep death noise, but I hear it like every 5 seconds, every few seconds.
The wildkin dying noise over and over again.
Yeah. So, when was the last hero added from Dota 1? Was it Underlord or was it Arc Warden?
Oh man, I forget what the last parody hero was. It might have been Arc Warden.
Was Arc Warden?
Monkey King was the first.
Yeah,
brand new one. But it was something
that was hinted at in Dota 1, and they just never added it.
Right, and even Arc Warden only came out like after Dota 2 was a game. Even if it was new to Dota 1. So there was like this overlap period where like they were both kind of getting balanced and developed. I think that's right. I'm pretty sure I never had Arc Warden when I played Dota 1.
Oh, that's interesting. Isn't Monkey King's like a Hon hero, isn't he? That's what I thought.
It was the counter like mana steal after Hon stole basically every hero. So it was like
Yeah. I don't really know. I just know that he was definitely in Hon.
I think there's a Monkey King in League as well. I'm not sure. I think I don't think his name's Monkey King, obviously, but I think he's a Monkey King. I don't know. That's like a famous trope, right? In some culture, right? Is it Chinese?
I don't know, like monkey culture?
You're so woke.
I have no idea.
We can just cut this. I don't know.
Are you kidding? I'm not cutting cultural talk. It's just broadening our horizons.
Is it not like a historical, like a story from... I'm just making stuff up.
I don't know.
I mean, it could be. There's a lot of little nuggets of things. I don't know, like what kind of Dota history our audience has, but so it might be news like the things like Ools being the name of one of the early developers and Guinsu for Hex. I don't know if people still call Hex Guinsu. Is that even in the game? Maybe that got deleted because he was who went off and did Hon, if I'm getting this right.
Right.
Do you know this kind of history? The beef between Ool and Guinsu and Ice Frog and all that stuff. It's quite...
I don't know this really.
Oh, that one's like that could be a whole podcast.
Right. Yeah. That's like a story time.
Yeah,
spicy drama. Go look it up. It's quite interesting. But it's just nice how there's like little homages to, like the early days that are still in the game and like just so integrated you hardly think about it. It's quite cool.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, guys. Monkey King is based on a story told in the Chinese Empire. So
nice.
I'm not
nailed it.
Crazy. But that's what all I'm saying is that it's not like League stole Monkey King, right? It's like Monkey King is a cool thing that anybody can make in their game.
Yeah, and it was about time for Valve to make that kind of China money grab.
Yeah, it was good timing. It was Monkey King, then the next year they announced Shanghai, and then it all spiraled, and soon will be.
Let's take a moment to, I guess, grieve our TI9 meetup. That was gonna, for like 2 years, we talked about how we're all gonna go to TI9. We're gonna see each other again.
Denied.
A lot of us for the first time, but Joe and I have met IRL before. And then it'd be like a meetup with a 5-stack, and then Nope, Shanghai. It's like, well, maybe TI-10. We can't.
Yeah. Road to 2020, though.
Road to 2020, the proper road. Open qualifiers, not plane tickets.
Plus talent guest passes.
We'll get the podcast so big, we'll get invited to TI-9, go to Shanghai.
Yeah, well, the plan for... This is genuine plan for TI9. I'm super keen to do daily update videos. Oh, not videos, update pods, like they do for the World Cup and other sporting events. So then I think Valve will definitely... This is sarcasm, but Valve will notice those and be like, oh, we need to endorse them, get them doing it live, and then that's the TI-10 dream.
Put it in the client, the DotA client, so people can see it and download it. Think of the clicks. Think of the clicks.
It auto plays when you pause the game.
Yeah.
Just tunes in.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to New Meta. They're like, what is this? How do I turn this off?
Yeah. Yeah. Email in your question.
Shout out to John.
Shout out
Just
to John.
John.
Yeah. I'll dial it back, regrettably dial it back from our TI-10 travel plans to maybe a final thing that I'm interested in. Because this honestly is just interesting for me. A final thing that I'd be interested in. Are all of the Dota 2 heroes that they've added the same as Dota 1 heroes? Was there any heroes that they added that were from Dota 1 where the skills were just different and the hero was pretty different and it was very surprising?
Not on porting. Some heroes got reworked, but then they also got reworked in Dota 1. So it really is like an actual port of the game.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes they might have got reworked at the same time as it got ported.
I don't really know how that works, because you've got Dota 1, which is effectively a custom game. And then I suppose Valve buy the rights for the custom game, and then once they've done that, it's just a matter of porting it into like an updated standalone game. I mean, that was effectively the job, right? The 2 at the end of Dota 2 is sort of deceptive. It's basically just like a cleaned, updated version of Dota 1.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It wasn't a follow-on. I don't think they got the rights, though. I think there was some issues fighting with Blizzard over that stuff, but they made Dota 2
Rest
anyway.
in peace.
So, yeah.
Windrunner, Skeleton King,
Ripperino,
Necrolite. Who else got name changed? Outworld Destroyer.
Oh, yeah.
Devourer. I mean, it's been so long that I call her Wind Ranger now. That's bad. That's so bad. Poor Leoric.
Yeah, Leo.
Skeleton King got taken out of the game for pressing ceremonial reasons. Then they made a custom game, like an event.
The whole pressing ceremonial thing.
That was real.
So when that was the official reason given?
So, well, what happened was they took him out of the game for like a day, and everyone was like, what's going on? Pressing ceremonial reasons. Then they launched an event like Dire Tide or something like that, but it was Wraith Night. And that's when they're like, Skeleton King became Wraith King. And I don't know if it was because of Blizzard copyright or if it was because, he is a skeleton. Like, it's hard to make an entire Skeleton King low violence for like China, as opposed to what they do with like Shadow Demon and Lifestealer and Doom. He is kind of just a big old spooky skeleton, so is
Lifestealer's model actually different in China?
He wears a mask over his face.
Oh.
So his jaw isn't like hanging loose like that.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like Bane from Batman.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
A big metal mask over his low jaw. Oh, same with Shadow Demon. They just throw masks on the people with skulls. Like I think Pugna, Lich, Shadow Demon all have face coverings of some kind, maybe Doom too.
Right. That's funny that. When you think about Dota's history in terms of the game itself, what changes or what periods and patches and changes do you think were the most impactful on the game's development and shaping it into sort of a balanced, well-rounded game? Because I imagine there were periods of crazy, weird mechanics and big things that were changed by Ice Frog.
Well, I don't know if they ever got it to be balanced per se. I feel like Radiant's always been better.
No, I remember a time
Even-
when Dire was better.
Well, that's what. So one of the biggest changes is when they moved the Roche pit around, and that's what I was going to say. Dire used to have Roche advantage, so it would always say Dire advantage. The Roshan pit is like tucked in nice to the Dire right hand side.
Yeah.
And the later the game would go, the Dire would have more and more of an advantage because Roshan becomes more irrelevant around then. But I don't know. I feel like Radiant always has had better lanes. And then they changed Roshan to where it is now. And now it's like better for Radiant to take kind of easier because of the shrines and stuff. So it's almost that Radiant's better at every point in the game. Plus, Dire always has to contend with the fact of like the human psychology or physiology factor of it's so much easier to go up and to the right as it is to go down and to the left. Mentally, to click.
Well, that's an interesting. I've not heard that one before.
Oh yeah, you don't think it's easier just to click up and to the right than to go downwards and to the left? That's a real thing. I don't know how many percentage points it is, but
I'd prefer being Dire personally.
Well, okay.
Yeah, of course, he's going to say that.
Meeple picker.
That's only because they've got that farming triangle in the right-hand woods.
Yeah, but that's nothing about whether you'd rather go up and to the right or bottom left.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah. I'm just saying for myself.
Yeah.
Maybe within the triangle, it affects which way round he farms it.
True.
It's the advantage Dire Radiant's been interesting because it kind of at the top level, right? That gets offset. Does it? They toss for like Dire Radiant, first pick, second pick. All that is like part of the strategy stuff, right?
Yeah, if you win the toss, you pick side or pick, and then the other team picks the other thing.
Right.
So there's times when people prefer first or second pick over either side, for sure.
Yeah. So it keeps it fresh that way.
And I remember when Dire did have an advantage when Radiant had a lot of woods camps that were on the low ground, where it was really easy to gank Radiant, and Dire actually had really strong advantage. That was around sort of after TI7. I don't think TI7 itself, but after TI7, immediately after, there was like a 4-month period where Dire was massively advantaged. And before that, and now after, Radiant is a slight advantage, but nothing like the same level that Dire had an advantage in those times. So it's definitely super interesting, the concept of not having a symmetrical map. Do you know what I mean? When I first got into Dota, I was really surprised when the map wasn't symmetrical.
Yeah, because like in a sense, why wouldn't it be?
Why wouldn't it be? Yeah.
It just feels like that solves all the issues, but it kind of keeps it. I don't know. It keeps it from feeling too like I don't know. It gives it a depth. You know, like it makes it more of like a world or like I don't know, just something more to it. Like it's more real in a way. That's not the right word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
just a lot more things to learn, which is why I love the game in the first place. But I will say, Radiant definitely has an advantage because I'm looking at my lifetime stats. I'm creeping up on 5,000 matches played, 4,886 matches played. Radiant lifetime win rate 56.3%. Dire lifetime win rate 49.5%.
Wow,
so,
where'd you get these stats? Are they on Dota Buff?
Yeah, lifetime stats 7% difference based off side.
I mean, you don't have to turn this podcast into an excuse for your inability to click up and right or whatever strange malfunction.
Down and to the left. And do you want to guess which side I've played more often? Of course, I've played Dire more often. Of course. 110 games more of 49% taking my win rate.
Adam's onto something here. My Radiant win rate is 56.6. My Dire win rate's 48.5.
I'm telling you, it's Radiant's always better.
I have more games on Radiant, so ease clap. Only 2 more though. 2 more games of Radiant than Dire.
Yeah, I do. I would prefer to play Radiant every game, but sometimes you got to switch it up.
Do you want to? This fact might baffle you. I have never played a game of Dota where the Roche pit is on the south side of the map.
Yeah, that's
So bizarre.
that was like 4 years I played with it like that. And now it seems like so long ago. Like I could barely even remember.
Well, there was two positionings over on that old side, wasn't there? Yeah, like to the right, and then it was like a bit north.
To the left. Yeah, there was one that was more tucked into the mid lane, and then another one that branched off kind of to the tier 1 bot tower for fire.
Yeah, no, because the one when it was on the mid lane, that's when what were they called? Alliance. No Tidehunter. When they did the bait, yeah.
Yeah.
That was what I was about to say, because when I think about memorable Roche plays, I can think of super memorable plays in each Roche position. The Tidehunter bait, the $5 million Echo Slam, and then also the, like Arfu stealing the Aegis and stuff like that on the current Roche position.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to remember.
The $1 million Echo Slam was the right position.
Yeah, on the right.
It wasn't the one that was. It wasn't the tucked in one.
No.
Yeah, the tucked in one was like what you said, the no Tidehunter bait. It also might have been the KYXY denied the Aegis in TI3.
Was that with the Visage birds or?
No, I think he was Wind Ranger and he just clicked it.
It was not a good
a good play, yeah.
Yeah, no, he was like they were just going to win and then they lost. It was bad. I believe that was Orange Esports, I think.
Yeah.
Orange Esports. That was TI3. That was a squad. That was Mushi, I think. Malaysian team. Super sick.
Just while we're on the subject of crazy, weird game mechanics, I'm just looking at some of the notes that Joe's jotted down. I'm interested by this Blink not going on cooldown shenanigans.
Dude, like there was a time where Blink Kalen's was core on every hero, every player, because it was so you could take damage and it wouldn't go on cooldown. So
right,
it was just like that was pretty insane.
Pretty bonkers. I'm trying to think about what hero. Well, I suppose it doesn't matter. It just makes it core on every hero, doesn't it? There's not a hero where that would be better or worse for. That's just bonkers.
Did it still have a mana cost?
No, I think it was like the Blink mana cost was quite new, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, when I started, it had a mana cost.
Oh,
Stan, did you even know that Blink had a mana cost?
No, I did not know that. What was the mana cost?
75. Imagine being a Magnus and wanting to blink RP, and you blink in and you don't have RP mana. Yeah, that's every strength initiator screamed so was so euphoric when they got rid of the mana cost. That was crazy.
Yeah, I think it kind of balanced it, but I think it was 25 or something, maybe.
But then the other thing with Blink was it has the 1200 range or something, and if you clicked too far outside of the range to blink forward, you would get a penalty, and you would maybe only go 800 forward.
Right. I was so mad. When they took that out. I was like, that was one of the coolest mechanics, skill mechanics.
One of your just snobbery, just they're making my game too easy. They're streamlining this, making it easy for these noobs that can't blink right.
Oh, I completely behind with that. I hate decisions that lower the skill cap, even though it's surely good for the game. All the evidence is that those adjustments are good for the game, but as I consider definitely would feel justified in saying it as a hardcore gamer. Those things used to tilt me so much.
Oh, I preferred I liked it being hard like that, but
yeah,
I can see the value in it. I almost every quality of life adjustment that gets added, I end up liking.
Yeah, same. There were some things that were just daft. I feel like it used to be you couldn't see. It's like just the health. You didn't have health bars, or it wasn't distinguished, and.
This isn't the Blink change, but just quality of life things such as you can buy sentries that aren't in sets of 2, that aren't 200 gold, or
that was
they don't take up separate slots. They combine on each other, or because
that wasn't that long ago, was it? I remember when you had to buy 2 sentries at a time. Am I?
No, you're right. It was quite fairly recent.
Yeah, it's fairly recent. Yeah, that's bizarre. I remember being happy when they changed that.
TP was 135 gold.
What?
That
really?
I mean, how is a support supposed to? You only had 6 slots, and it was taken up by like
that's crazy.
Observer ward, Sentry ward, boots.
Well,
dust.
TP took a slot as well.
TP, that was it. You don't get items.
How do you feel about the TP taking a slot? Yeah.
Yeah, that was game changing. Game changing. The backpack and the TP not taking a slot, both those things are like really game changing when you think about like
backpack
being
is
6 slotted, and if you were 6 slotted, that meant you didn't have a TP like in the old days, right?
Yeah, I like TP taking a slot. Honestly,
it's quite cool. It makes it exciting. More,
There's now you can do the abuse stuff where you BOTs out to a lane, and then you still have the other TP on like a 10-second cooldown, so you can just come back.
I love that. Yes, I love that. It's so fun doing that.
Kind of strong.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, can you get more than one chick these days?
I don't think so.
Because it used to be when you were 6 slotted, like then the really good players, they would like buy their own extra chick, which they would like micro around them to swap items out and stuff, and carry TPs and swap items on cooldown.
That's pretty cool.
Here's this change. This was kind of wild. TI3 days was you had your BKB, right? Most important item, even back then, and it would go down from 10 seconds. They always changed with the cooldown, and then I guess how many times it would go down in duration after activating. I think it would stop at 5 at that point. But you could buy a new BKB and it would have fresh charges again. It would go back up to 10.
Yeah.
And I don't think you could sell it. So people would drop the old one in the base, and then you would buy a new BKB. And that used to be the thing. It was like, I remember distinctly TI3 watching a match, and it might have been Draskell and AC casting. And there's just like, oh, he's got a fresh BKB. Like at 40 minutes, he's bought another BKB. That was like the huge timing this Nature's Prophet had. He's going to have 10 seconds of magic immunity again.
Yeah. That was
Can't do that. Yeah. Can't do that now.
BKB, I mean, this isn't really a time capsule thing, but BKB is such an interesting item to balance. It's sort of funny that it starts with 10 seconds. You feel like, and then it goes down to 5. You feel like it would be game-breakingly good because you just get 10 seconds of BKB, which is even more value than in the late game, but it's a funny item to balance. It's interesting that they balanced it in that way, but it works.
Yeah, there's a nice back and forth between the BKB's more powerful the later you get it for the longer charges, but then also if you get it earlier, there's a chance you can snowball with that window.
Yeah.
And then if you don't snowball, then it's only 5 seconds at late game. So I think it's nicely balanced in terms of how strong it is.
Yeah. What's this old Rampage? I don't know what a triple is.
The triple. Back in the day, it used to just be there was only like a soundbite and text for double kill and triple kill. So if you got what was effectively a Rampage, on the 3rd kill it'd be triple kill, 4th kill would be triple kill, 5th kill would be triple kill again. So it was the triple was the old Rampage.
That's awesome. Man, Rampage is so good. How dead is Pentakill?
Oh, let's not even go there.
Let's not even go there.
Rampage is so much better. And if you have like the default announcer doing the holy shit.
Yeah, man. That was so big. When that was actually a huge patch when that came into Dota 1. That was a big moment getting those in. Can you imagine, like, for years you've been getting these triples and it was hype, but now it was this holy shit.
Yeah.
Right now, if you play a game and if you get a kill, it doesn't say pwned anymore, does it?
Oh, is that edited out?
I don't think it says pwned anymore.
It doesn't. It definitely doesn't. Because I always think that when I watch Dota 1 stuff, I'm like, pwned, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, PNW, ED or whatever.
It's speaking of the kill stuff, it's bizarre that there's still a massive bug that's been in the game for a million years.
Oh,
where
yeah.
when there's a group, It's so annoying when there's a group kill on someone and it says 100 gold each. And that's incorrect. It's 100 gold shared between the people that it lists.
Yeah, that's not like a funny little thing to leave in. That's just like, that's quite...
I know, that's genuinely a massive oversight. That's a bug that's present multiple times in every game to every player.
Yeah.
Like,
can I just mention one thing for just to let you know how much quality of life you've got? It's like back in the day, right? You didn't have... So first of all, health bars were the same for both teams. So it wasn't obvious like in team fights, like who's who. Also, they were changing in color. So when you were full health, it was green. And as you got lower, it changed through orange and red and so on. So it's just an absolute what the fuck of what's going on.
Bizarre.
Also, I think the creep didn't have health bars unless you clicked on them or hovered on them or something. So that like changed. Can you imagine how hard last hitting would be compared to that? It was like 100% focus.
Yeah.
You had to like notice who's actually pay attention to which animation is hitting which and hover on them to see the HP.
Yeah, if you're like not using your brain power on trying to think about what HP all the creeps are at all times, then you're just going to miss CS for fun. Like if you're trying to harass them or something.
Like, how did anyone ever have any gold? Is what I want to know.
Right? Probably the passive gold was just much higher. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of gold and spending gold, when I first got into Dota, I'm sure loads of people have exactly the same story. But when I first got into Dota, probably my first 4 game, maybe just I was playing against bots, perhaps. Maybe by the time I was playing against humans, I'd already solved this one. But I had bought a Manta style, and I was wondering why it didn't seem to do anything. I didn't know what was going on with my Manta style, and I'd bought this some other item. I bought this Shiva's guard, and I'd read the description. I'd paused the game, or something, maybe I was against bots. I paused the game, gone into the shop, and read the description of the items and stuff. I didn't really know how the shop worked, how to buy stuff. So I was like, I'll buy this Shiva's guard because it sounds cool. What it does is cool. Well, I don't know why is it not working? Why is it not working? And then, of course, it turned out that I'd just been buying the recipes. And that was it. And then I realised, basically figured it out, that you've got to make the item with stuff, which is pretty crazy to me. And
a 600 gold Shiva's guard, 500 gold Manta staff. Seems good.
Well, he picked the right things to do, right? If that was what Lou can do. But again, just to shout out to the past, the shop nowadays is like unbelievably good. It shows you which things combine. All the things are in the same place. It used to be you had to click on different buildings, and they only contained a finite number of the items. There were 4 of them in the fountain, and there was none of this like click on something and it showed you what made it or something. You had to like squint and read some text somewhere. It was mad, man.
Right.
Squint and read that 240p resolution.
Exactly.
No wonder everyone has glasses.
Yeah, so like nowadays, probably you get like this good feeling, maybe like if you're new to Dota and maybe you get like your first, like, I don't know, your first triple kill or ultra kill or rampage or something, or like Aegis steal, it's like, yeah, pretty good. But like back then it was like the first time you combined an item successfully, you were like, come on, yes, I'm getting this game.
Yeah.
Progress.
I've reached untold levels of power.
Yeah, no. You were better than 90% of the players at that point.
This bracer will take me to new heights.
Back then, being 6-slotted was like 6 mantles of intelligence.
Yeah.
Just balling.
Seriously.
6 rings of health. Was it even called Ring of Health? I
think so, yeah.
Vlad's was called something else, wasn't it? I mean, a lot of items were called other things, I guess.
Lothos is the one
a
lot of people still use.
Blade.
Quick trivia before we go on to the next subject. Windrunner was much the same. Wait, is it Windrunner or Windranger? I hope I've got this right.
Windranger now.
Okay, good. I was true to my roots. So Windrunner was much the same hero back in Dota 1. And as a core damage dealer, can you get... This is when it was a bit more developed and there was like a bit of a pro scene going on and like people actually playing the game. So this is not a joke, but can you guess what the kind of primary core item was on Windrunner?
Core item?
I'll say Basher.
Yeah, you're in the right territory for the kind of like what level that this was, but everyone was playing this item. Do you want to guess this time?
If you're in the right ballpark, I'm thinking something with a like diffusal blade.
It was Battle Fury.
What?
It wasn't like it got the cleave or anything back then. It was a different item, so it was built out of Perseverance, and then some damage item, and it was just like so strong. Perseverance was generally so strong, like early on, like people just thought regen was amazing or something, so you didn't have to go back to the fountain. And then it had a good bit of damage. So yeah, I think that was legit. You can fact check that.
Battle Fury Bounty Hunter came from. That was like when I started playing, that was kind of one of the memes back then in 2012. Like, oh, I bet this guy builds Battle Fury on Bounty Hunter. Like, must have carried over from Dota 1.
Yeah, that was another one. You could go double Battle Fury on Bounty Hunter. That was pretty standard. You wouldn't get looked at too funny if you did that.
A couple of topics that I do want to go to. That I don't know which one you want to go first. I'll let you decide. But I want to talk about pro teams and stuff that have defined Dota in the metagame a lot. And another thing I want to talk about is skill, the development of skill of players over time. Which of those topics do you want to go to first, do you think?
Let's talk about the teams, because then that'll filter into talking about the skill.
What teams do you think have defined, or what? There's a top 10 list of most memorable Dota teams, whether it be Dota 2 or Dota. What teams do you think are finding themselves on that list, or what teams come to mind, do you think?
Alliance.
Is it the TI winning teams? Is that what the list would be? The 8 TI winning teams?
Do they have to be like super successful teams?
No. I mean, there's no right or wrong. I mean,
TI winning teams that I think are on that list are Alliance, Navi, Wings, and Liquid, probably. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I think the meta, and when I say the meta, I mean like the pro scene rather than the meta game. The sort of everything revolves around TI. So just winning TI in of itself is like the culmination of a year of Dota 2's pro existence. So I feel like if you were doing a top 10 most impactful teams on Dota 2, I'm sure that 8 TI winning teams would have to be on the list anyway.
Yeah. I feel like you got to throw out some honorable mentions to like your Cloud9, that were just kind of like so distinctive in their uniqueness. And
any Eternal Envy stack.
Yeah, basically any Eternal Envy stacks gets like a little bonus mention.
A team that didn't win, I would say Team DK.
Yeah, the All-Star
China Super Team, that was a big one. Even though they never won, they were like the monsters. Kind of like how VP are now, where kind of like dominate the year and then not do the greatest at a TI.
Yeah. Do you think teams back in the day, or just general in the past with Dota, do teams have a much more distinct personality and more distinct playstyle versus now, when I think a lot of teams are trying to do the same thing, they're just trying to do it better because the relative skill of the different teams and the relative understanding of the game is so high that people tend to agree on how to play the game. Was that always been the case, or do you think back in the day was it much more distinct of like, oh, they're a CIS team, they're going to be hyper aggro, or they're a C team, they're going to do this wild stuff?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think it's kind of evolved in that way. Like the kind of, if you imagine the peaks and troughs of the like skill sets and so on when the game wasn't fully explored were more varied. I remember like in the early days of pro scene kind of forming and starting, it was always like whispers coming over from China about how they were just like super farm, and they invented this like proper 4 Protect 1 type strategy with a hard carry that teams in the West back in Dota 1 weren't really running.
That's really interesting.
Same for the TIs. Like obviously Alliance really stand out, and that was this kind of split pushing strategy that no one else was really doing. Maybe it has stabilized more now.
They revolutionized just how you could play the game. They just used the map so much better than everyone else. They had a higher understanding of how to get gold out of the map to supports.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a difficult question to answer, but could you give me like a too long didn't read on the Alliance play style?
very long, great post about it on Team Liquid, the website, teamliquid.net.
All right.
Detailing, very detailed about how Alliance revolutionized Dota and how they were far and away the best team at that TI. It's been a long time since I've read it, but just that they would pick like Chen. They would just give more gold to the supports.
Right, exactly. That was it. They'd rotate it out, wouldn't they? So they'd get to a certain level, or they'd get to a certain farm, and on a core that could then leave the lane, and they would like purposely like give the supports gold to get these like different power spikes that kind of people had never thought of. It was always just everything on your cores.
It was very 4-protect-1 back in the day.
Yeah,
a lot of alchemists and stuff like that.
Tons of alchemists.
The gold disparities would be so huge, whereas Alliance would still get gold on Loda and on Admiral Bulldog, but their supports also had gold too. I'm not talking like a ton, but they had 1 or 2 decent little items that made them not total food. And another thing was that Admiral Bulldog was, in a lot of the ways, the carry on the team.
Yeah.
And back then, mid was much more space creation. So a lot of like puck and stuff from S4, a lot of making like team fight would be coming out of mid.
Yeah, like utility ganky stuff.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just physical damage carry stuff.
Going back to your original point, I feel like it would be too harsh to say there's not differences, but it's kind of like little style points now, like between the different teams, or slight preferences to different heroes or strategies. But overall, it's definitely more like stabilized.
Homogeneous,
I think it's still varied enough, with the way the drafting works, that you do get cool things happening and people having their own little picks that maybe no one else would use, and that kind of thing is really cool.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's much more like there's a defined meta that people figure out throughout the course of a tournament, but they have their little either comfort picks or like signature heroes like Yaps or playing Rubik or something. Or like with either Secret or NIP with Ace and Nisha's like those guys can play Arc Warden, or be scared of Arc Warden or Terrorblade or Arteezy Terrorblade even.
And when I think, honestly, there's a brilliant sort of self-balancing of Dota where it's at the pro level where the more homogenous a meta becomes, there's a self-balancing act of the more pinned down a certain meta gets, the more various teams will run similar strategies with similar heroes, the more the other teams will get used to countering those specific strategies, and then some and therefore other strategies that had been disregarded now are out of practice and unfamiliar, and suddenly they become, just based off that, stronger. And I'm thinking like Wings in TI6 and definitely OG in TI8. They were incredibly unique playstyles. I mean, Wings played everything, right? I mean, I wasn't even around for that TI, but certainly OG, they ran stuff that no one else would run. But it worked because people hadn't prepared for this random open qualifier team. I thought TI8 was pretty cool for that in terms of the variety that we saw was quite good.
Yeah, they kind of turned it on its head with some Nature's Prophet support, or just like really in your face fighting, but then with a PL.
Yeah, or they just had interesting strats. They ran like Zeus mid and weird stuff like this, and then they also had the pocket strats of let's take it 50 minutes with 90% damage reduction on Spectre and weird stuff like that.
It's really cool though, and this kind of ties in with the other bit you mentioned about the skill, and that Dota is like a lot of things, like this huge pyramid, right, of skill all the way up to the top pro teams. And TI especially is like within that like very top pinnacle, you then get how many games it is, 50 to 100 games, like that are like really pushing those boundaries there. So it opens up for this kind of thing, as you say, because nerves, pressure, all these things are coming down to it in this one game. Whereas throughout the year, there's like the variance is evened out, so you wouldn't get away with it. They couldn't do it again. But in TI, it is the one time that you can really make something like that work, and they did fabulously.
What was special about Wings?
Well, just TI6 was one of the TIs I watched the least for whatever reason.
You were done once the US won TI5. You were like,
Well, I was so
what
stoked.
is it now?
I guess I didn't go to that TI, and then it's just like Wings would play everything was really cool. They could pick so many. Their pool was massive. It was like the whole hero pool. They weren't afraid of anything, and it would work. People just didn't know what to draft against them or to ban because they didn't care. They would just pick. I don't even like. You should probably name a hero. I know they picked Pudge. They picked weird stuff. Zeno, Necro, just everything.
Did they pick
I don't
Meepa?
even know if those heroes were good at that time. Maybe not Meepa.
Not interested then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that TI. I thought it was a cool TI because it was Digital Chaos, right? Who they were put down by Wings in the original upper bracket, but did take a game off them. And then Digital Chaos went on this like huge run. So Digital Chaos was I remember them as the reject team because it was like we and Misery had to scrap that team together at the last minute, having been kicked from
New and Saska and
something like that. And they made this heroic run through the lower bracket and got back to the grand final to rematch against Wings. They were the only team that took a game off Wings in the bracket. So yeah, I thought that was quite cool because I've got like a soft spot for Misery. He's been around for like forever. I think I played like a random game with like it's either Misery or one of the other Danes like way back in the day. So it's one of those like go on, son.
Yeah. Man, Weehar's so good. I don't know how he's not perennially. His skill level is unbelievable. I don't know how he's not perennially like a highly sought after tier 1 mid.
You're right. You see these like Samaels who are like these prodigies, and I feel like we have skill level ability. Maybe his team stuff's not as good, but his skill level is like, oh my god, that guy.
Yeah. No, it's unbelievable. No, I totally agree. Yeah, because I don't get how he's not just sort of like a tier 1 midder. Do you know what I mean? Because he's sort of on these tier 2, tier 3.
Right. Yeah. Must be personality and like team thing, but I remember he's the kind of guy I'd watch his stream and like whilst he's queuing he just like tabs into Rocket League and he's like top 0.01% Rocket League player like in 2 months of playing, and that's a hard game to play as well.
He's just a gamer.
Yeah, man.
Is there anything else we want to say on like the pro scene history? Any funny things, or
just a quick shout out to like the OGs, like these guys like Puppy, Kuroki, who, I mean, they've been at the top of this game for 10 plus years, like right at the top. Like, I can't wait.
Yeah, those two are
those two especially. Yeah,
the tip top.
Right to start out. Yeah, I want to see them. Hall of Famers because it's unbelievable.
Those two specifically that you've mentioned are probably the two. I would perhaps say the two highest value Dota players in the world at the moment, in terms of, because the more Dota goes on and the more the skill level goes up relatively, and especially amongst the pros amongst themselves, their skill level kind of becomes similar. It's not like you have these wide, Sumail can't just crush mid anymore against anyone, maybe. Like you might have said that back in the day, but so strategizing and drafting is ever more important. And if you look at Secret and Team Liquid, they just both won majors.
Yeah.
Kuroki and Puppy are absolutely killing drafting and strategizing now.
Whilst keeping on top of the game to at least be, serviceable at the highest level and calling the shots.
Certainly.
It's crazy. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kuroki was right. Our TC was left.
But yeah, just to think like, especially now with like how much those guys have made, and they were doing the same thing back playing for like 200 euros and some like LAN with like the big fat monitors and all that kind of stuff. So it's so cool.
So it's a decent segue onto talking about skill and skill level, because we've sort of brushed around this subject a lot in terms of skill levels. You say if you can make an item out of components, you're better than 90% of players and stuff like that. Maybe Adam, I'd ask you, seeing as you've been around for more of a fathomable amount of time, as in not into Dota 1, which is sort of hard to think about for me. Do you think have you noticed an increase in skill level, or is it hard to tell because you've also gained MMR and stuff over that time period since you started playing?
Oh, yeah, it's far and away. Everyone's much better. There's just so much between streams and websites and videos. There's so much info.
Yeah,
For
material
people to
consume.
learn. And I have, climbed, but I play with people of all sorts of skill level. And I don't know what, sometimes I wonder why I'm at where I'm at, like what really separates me from people that are 2000 below, because they have a lot of the same type of ideas and they buy all the decent items, I guess it comes down to some execution or just macro decision making, but it can be kind of crazy. It's like, yeah, they're doing 85% of the same stuff I would do.
Yeah, that's so super interesting. I mean, that is sort of the $1 million question, as it were. What makes a pro better than me, and what makes me better than some 1K player?
Yeah, but in general, the knowledge set and all the data that's out there, it's been crazy. The evolution, the skill evolution, like you say, the fact that down in the lower trenches, like people will still play roles. I mean, okay, a lot of the time maybe you get a couple of cores, but a couple too many cores. But generally, you get like people playing correct roles. You get people buying the correct items for the role. Like that is, to me, like that's crazy. That was like only the kind of quote unquote pro teams back in the beginning were doing those kind of things, But now it's like all the way down. Like people are trying to play kind of correctly, if you like, or trying to do the best to win.
Buying smokes, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, gathering up and using it.
Which a lot of the time, I mean, even in my bracket, smokes we're not using those correctly, but we're using them. A lot of the time, you smoke, you're just going to run to some part of the map. You got no vision of what's going on there. You're going to hope somebody's there. It's going to pop as you're walking up the hill, and they're going to get away, or they're all waiting there for you. You're going to die. But you know what? You played as a team. You tried.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. The trickle down of skill, the nature of that trickle down, I find really interesting. So you mentioned about grouping up for smokes and stuff, and that'll be because people, even at say 1.5k, they've seen people on streams and in pro games smoke. So that's quite an easy thing to think, oh, I will buy this item and I will tell my team to use it. But they might not necessarily know why, and so they won't be able to use that item at the right time or in the right way, but they know to use it. And another example would be...
She's like, oh, I saw Arteezy buy a smoke. I will do this.
Exactly. And it's the same for other things. So if you went down to 1k, I bet you could find some anti-mages that will tread switch when they're blinking through the jungle and stuff. But they won't necessarily know why. They'll know why in the sense of to conserve mana, but then they won't be able to utilize that difference, if you know what I mean. And they won't be able to realize the difference of tread switching. It won't make any difference to them at all because it's other things that are super important, like making sure you're pushing lanes and everything else in Dota. So it's really funny. It reminded me when I was in 2K, I used to, and even now, I say when I was in 2K as if it's like, oh, how silly of me to do this in 2K. It'll be, pros would think exactly the same now, or they'd be like, why are you bothering doing this? We're only 4K. But like removing intelligence items, backpacking intelligence items when I bottle myself or when I'm shrining and stuff like that. It's just really funny because those things are really easy to take on board when you see a better player do them. But yet the fundamentals and they're always going to be way harder to take on board.
I remember the first time I decided I was going to learn tread switching was this was back when Arteezy was just a wee pub star. He might have been like 16 at that point. He was playing puck, and it was his buyback. He had orbed and died, and he bought back and jaunted in to the orb, which was first that was a pog play. Never seen that before, and he got a triple kill. And there was just a comment that's like, just look at how often he tread switched during that entire play. He probably switched like 30 times, all optimally. Like, oh, I'm taking an auto attack. I'll have strength treads. Okay, now I'm casting a spell. Int. Over and over and over again. And it's like, oh my god, I need to learn this. This looks sick.
Yeah, it's cool. So that's like a conscious one, but I think it's interesting that at the top, like right at the top, when there's like small changes, like these patch changes that have happened, even the top players don't really know. Like you said, they kind of feel things out. You'll see like they'll go for an item build, 10 times on the same hero just to kind of like feel it out, and they won't know whether it's better or worse. And then everyone else looks up towards them and kind of emulates them, and so it kind of trickles down. It's really interesting.
You mean like now with Vipers going max W Nether Toxin and buying Rod of Atos first and farming the whole map like they saw Matumba Man do?
Right, exactly.
And it's like, where did Matumba Man learn that? That's what I want to know. Where was he playing on a Smurf, or was he as a theory craft, or did he play that and think, oh, that was good, or did somebody else play that against him, or was it just somebody else on the team that saw it happen?
Yeah.
You imagine that he pubs. I mean, it's Matumba Man, so he's playing Viper in pubs a bit, and he'll get ideas a lot probably. Yeah, they play a lot of pubs and a lot of scrims as well. So he will have played it in a pub or maybe a scrim, and they will have had a hint that it's okay, a hint that it could be strong, and then they've decided to perhaps in scrims see if it can work more, see if it can work on that level, and had success with it there, and then they've developed it more and more. And then they decide to throw it out in a tournament, and it seems really successful. And then suddenly it's taken
now it's in all the pubs.
Yeah. It's interesting as well because, what was I going to say? Yeah, what you mentioned about pros feeling out heroes, they almost, at the top level, for the people that are innovating themselves rather than just following what they see, for them it's the why first rather than the doing thing. So they'll be there. This is kind of a crappy example, but to go back to the tread switching while you're blinking through the jungle, it will be for the first people that did that. It will probably be a why of like, oh, I need more mana on anti-mage because just from playing games and realizing, and then I can tread switch. That's how I can conserve mana. So the why comes first rather than the doing. Whereas at lower levels, the lower you go, there'll be a lot of headless playing. Even going through the motions of tread switching or backpacking and high level quote unquote skills, but they're mindlessly done, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, or like when the clarities got changed and everyone started bringing clarities everywhere, or mango versus clarity in lane. That people bringing mangoes to lane just to get the burst mana and heal, just all that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Ferrying out a salve to mid, like I'm sure 99% of people just kind of automatically did that out of like a copycat thing without really appreciating like the why of that. Yeah.
Or preemptively, like it doesn't, like I watched a mid lesson, I think it was maybe CCNC or BSJ, but the whole point is you bring out the salve because you're trading at level 1, and then you already have the salve out to you, and you're ahead if the other guy doesn't bring it. It's like preemptive regen.
Exactly, and you'll see people who will just not even be trading right clicks, or will be on full health and just like passively creeping, and they'll still bring the salve out because they don't get
I have those kind of points. Now.
Yeah, exactly. It's just dead cold. Yeah, exactly. That's a good example.
I have a salve now for when I get ganked, and then as I'm about to die, I can pop the salve, and I still die.
That's the standard one.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff like that. It's like warding mid at the start of a game.
Right.
You could go all the way down to 1k, and like aspiring support players will give a ward to their mid, and the mid player will just clunk it down in the mid lane, get basically no real use out of it, but they know that that's the correct play because that's what people do higher up in higher up games. It's really interesting.
Quick point of contention. I know we've been going on a bit, but I just want to throw it out there that I still want to maintain that I don't believe that. I know I'm wrong, but I still don't believe that roles are correct in like lower skill brackets. I think it's incorrect to buy wards and as a like quote unquote support player in anything below 3k because I don't think people look at the minimap. I think it's a waste of gold. I think come at me, come at me, bros.
That's controversial.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like I always looked at the minimap for my StarCraft days, so that was kind of ingrained. I'm sure there are some people that wards would really make no difference, but they make a huge difference for me. I see a hero flash, and then I can look down.
I feel like I got to masters, and I got top 25 masters in StarCraft without using my minimap. But that's just because you can get away with it more in that game, just from like macroing. But anyway,
Yeah.
It's just I think I'm permanently scarred right by this one game where, and this is probably way back in the days where the balance wasn't so good, but there's like an enigma or a Bane or something. This Bane like just he was way overskilled for the level, and he just hits creep and gets items and like solo wins this game as a Bane from the jungle or some shit. I don't know. So I just feel like in these low skill levels, if you were actually better, and all that means I think is can last hit and farm efficiently, like, and you're a Crystal Maiden, you should just, I'm going to put it out there to all the listeners, you should just go and take last hits, get gold, and just win the game yourself.
I'll just, goes a little counter to what I think we've been saying on this pod so far.
Just stay positive, just mute him.
I do think
when your neck starts like screaming at you on the mic, just mute him, take his last hits, it's all good.
I don't think there should be hard 6 position. Like, I don't think you should be so supported that you don't have anything in that low of a bracket, because you giving up that amount of gold isn't doing the same thing as it would at a higher level, because there's no guarantee that your carry is even getting all of the gold. So getting a little bit of farm for yourself, I will agree.
Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there as a point of contention. Our listeners can email in about that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Should you buy wards pre-3K?
Yes.
Question of the week.
He's wrong.
So I mean, to be fair, that I think that's been a good pod for me. It's super interesting thinking about the past from the perspective of guest Joe. You've been playing and you've seen it, and then for me to imagine a past with all these things and to try and think about Dota having a history beyond just the 1.8 years that I've been playing. Pretty wild.
Does Joe have an answer? If we do one, I don't know if we're about to wrap it up, but one quick question, because I have an answer to this, is what the most broken hero on release was in your memory?
Sure.
Yeah, I actually don't remember. I really don't remember. It's like such a long hazy blur for me. Go on, who was you?
It was before my time, but just hearing about it, like just right before my time, was when Centaur was added to the game. Because when he was added, they changed his ult, and they added in Stampede.
When he would fly?
Oh. Well, ult, he was the same here. Well, I guess he's different now, but he had his Stomp, so that was a stun. And back in the day, I remember. Back in the day, Double Edge mini stunned. It canceled channels. So he had a stun on W. And then Stampede was global, 65-second cooldown at all levels. Yeah. And if you ran over someone, it stunned. Yeah, so he had 3 stuns.
Yeah, that was insane. That was insane.
That one, just, I looked at his changelog today, and it was implemented as a 65-second cooldown at all levels. And then the very next patch, it went up to 120, scaling down to 65 after that, because they're like, whoa. It also went up in duration for 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then they cut it to 3.75 at all levels. And they took off the stun of Double Edge and Stampede.
Yeah, it was stupid, actually.
Yeah. How does anyone ever going to TP out ever? Because you just Double Edge the minute mini stuns it.
Or you press your ult from the other side of the map to allow your non-stun carrying hero on the other side of the map to just run over someone.
Yeah, to just run over
the TP. Yeah, it was just.
Yeah, one final thing as well. The cheese heroes now, I'm thinking Huskar, Meepo, and Brood, were they considered super cheesy heroes in Dota 1? Or was it a different sort of thing?
I don't think it was just everything was so different.
Yeah, I was going to say it wasn't developed enough to have cheese. Really.
I'm sure it was something like, oh my god, he's playing Bane mid. This is so cheesy. Like,
yeah, it didn't really work like that, I suppose.
I remember like the first time someone did like a global based strat with like Zeus and Nature's Prophet, and that was like revolutionary.
Huh.
I guess I don't know if that was cheesy at the time, but it was pretty groundbreaking. Or like starting to jungle, like again, revolutionary. People didn't know how to use the jungle before our time. Like things like this, it's like mind blowing to think about. It's just
I said
common
before. Now. Because, you said last hitting was so hard because the creeps had no health bars. Like, how does anyone have any gold? Well, it's because no one's trying to hit the creeps anyways. They're trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Right? That's how all the gold came around. Was just, I'm sure they were slaughterhouses, right? Pubs for bloodbaths.
Oh, absolutely. That's all you played for. You just run around the map killing people. You'd have a slight skill edge, mainly because half the people had never played the game before because it was a custom map. And you just run around and kill people. Yeah. Quicker than the opposing
creeps
player
would take
kill you.
the towers.
Yeah,
no need to push because creeps would.
I don't know, but there was a time where there was no backdoor protection. So I remember there was a time where people like clocked on where they would just group up and just go together and just nuke a tower down because there was no backdoor protection. And you just like, that was pretty wonky.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just pick Leshrac. No backdoor.
So yeah, this seems like a good time to wrap up. We've been going for a while, but it's been a good episode. I've enjoyed the past of Dota.
Really nice to take a walk down memory lane. I hope that was mildly interesting for people who either do or don't know about it, because I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, Stan just had a history lesson.
Yeah.
The history nerd of our group, and he's just had some history from Dota.
Well, some real history. He's like far superseded me in ability in the game, so now I'm like turning into this granddad role of like, respect your elders, respect the past.
Yeah.
You don't know how good you have it.
One of those, I don't know what the equivalent of, when I was your age, I used to walk uphill both ways in the snow to get to school. Like, what is that for Dota? It's like,
well, when I was your age, I had to buy my own chick as a Shadow Fiend mid.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I wouldn't unit control, so no one else could use my chick. I had to download a third-party like script so that I could hotkey my items in my inventory, because you couldn't change them from like the numpad keys, and that was awful.
Oh yeah, that's it was all legacy keys, right? The legacy keys were just set.
Yeah, so you'd use the legacy keys for your spells, but there were no item hotkeys, or they were something daft like the numpad keys. So you had to like buy use some dodgy software to remap, or just like some keyboard software to remap your numpad keys to the actual numbers and stuff like that. It was so ghetto.
That's why people still use legacy keys. It just seems so crazy to me.
Hotkeys is a whole nother subject. We'll do an episode on hotkeys because there's so much bizarre stuff going on.
Yeah.
All this alt stuff. Anyway, that's for another day. This one's been great though. Hopefully we'll get back guest Joe for another podcast before too long.
Yes, sir. I'd be honoured. It's been a great pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun. And
definitely been a lot of fun. Yeah. And Adam will be joining us again next time, though, for sure. Perhaps with Marco next time, although we'll see. Who knows? We'll get stories from...
I've tried to make myself irreplaceable.
Yeah. Well, me and you are still rocking the 100% attendance
rate. Absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get some stories from the Far East for the next episode. But yeah, until then, keep listening. And I hope you'd enjoy this episode, and we'll see you again next time.
Peace.
See ya.